Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Thrill rides are exciting rides that are intense, toss you around and turn you into a vomit machine if your stomach isn't strong enough. Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 gives you 11 different thrill rides to choose from, ranging from the go-karts to the Roto Drop to the 3D cinema. Inevitably, some of these rides will be better than others, so today I asked the question, which thrill rides are the best and which are the worst? For each thrill ride I have tested to see what the optimal settings are for the highest amount of profit per year, assuming you charge the highest possible ticket price. I will combine this with the build cost, the soft guest cap bonus and various other factors to determine how good each thrill ride type is. If you want to see me use these rides in practice, you can follow me on Twitch. I play Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 there live twice a week and it's always a lot of fun. Just like in my coaster types tier list, we will go in alphabetical order, so let's start with the 3D cinema. And we've started off strong, or should I say weak, as the 3D cinema is the worst of all the thrill rides by a wide margin. It attracts 45 guests, which is average, and the build cost of €560 is a bit above average. That makes it mediocre, but not too terrible in pay-for-entry parks. No, what makes it bad is its maximum throughput and profit. There are 3 movies available: Mouse Tales, Storm Chasers and Space Raiders. Mouse Tales is the shortest, but also gives the lowest stats and thus the lowest ticket price. It is though with a super slight margin the most profitable film, but even that is less than €900 per in-game year. This is ridiculously low, even a moderately popular food stall will make more than that. The only upside of the 3D cinema is that it functions well as a big ball if you need one for whatever reason. Despite that, it's still at the bottom of the list in the ew tier. Next up is the Enterprise, which is a much better ride type. Out of all the 8 flat thrill rides, the Enterprise is the most profitable, capable of making over €6,000 per year, with the standard number of 12 rotations. For a lot of rides, a lower number of rotations or swings or whatever is better, because the lower stats are outweighed by the higher throughput, but due to a bug, setting it to 11 or 10 rotations doesn't actually decrease the ride duration. A higher number of rotations does increase it, but that isn't worth it if you want to make money. However, it can be useful in scenarios where guests prefer more extreme rides, such as extreme heights. The Enterprise is one of the only 2 flat rides that can reach an intensity rating high enough for the people in those scenarios to want to ride it. Despite the high nausea rating, which can give a lot of puke, this, combined with the high profit, places it firmly in the good tier. By the way, there is also the Firecracker ride, which is a reskin of the Enterprise introduced in the expansions that has identical stats. Some thrill rides even got multiple reskins, with the twist getting the most with 10. In this video I will not count any of those, as they are just reskins and not actually new rides. Our third thrill ride is the go-karts, which is really good, but only if you keep it super tiny. This go-kart from Katie's Dreamland is quite small and does a standard 3 laps, and still it can only process about 500 guests per year, which is pitiful. This single lap design on the other hand can process about 1500 guests per year, which is much better. And despite the low stats, you can charge a lot for it, allowing for an income of over 13,000 a year, over twice that of the Enterprise. You can extend the station all the way to 18 tiles to get the maximum of 31 carts for an even higher income of 21,000 a year, but this is quite space inefficient. You're better off just building 2 go-karts each with a 6 tile long station. Because of the really high income, I'd say the go-karts is better than the Enterprise, but not quite God tier. Speaking of God tier, we have just arrived at it with the launched freefall. You probably saw this coming, as it's no secret that the launched freefall is really damn good. With a launch speed of 111 km per hour, it can make over 20,000 a year, easily outperforming the go-karts while taking up fewer tiles. You can also go very small in order to really cheaply get a lot of soft guest cap. With the minimum launch speed of 35 km per hour, you can build one for only €250, and with each freefall attracting 65 guests, the most of all thrill rides, this is very good bang for your buck. Lastly, the freefall is a great park value bomb. If you build a super tall one, no one will ride it, but it gets you a ton of park value for very little money. All these reasons easily put it in the God tier, although its title as best thrill ride is certainly not yet certain. Next up is the Magic Carpet, which is entirely ordinary. The most profitable number of swings is 11, but it makes very little difference, as whatever number you pick it always makes between 4 and 5,000 a year if you charge the maximum possible ticket price. The shape can be a bit awkward to work with, as you don't have much choice where to place the entrance and exit buildings, so all in all I think it's quite an unremarkable meh ride type. The motion simulator is quite a bit better though. Its tiny 2x2 size combined with a low height makes it fit in almost anywhere, which can be very useful on occasion. Other than that, it's not so great, as it can only make about 2,000 a year if you use the film Thrill Riders, but in pay-for-entry scenarios that doesn't matter, so there it's one of the best thrill rides. Considering how incredibly versatile the tiny footprint makes it, I'd say it belongs in the good tier, just behind the Enterprise. Next up is the Pirate Ship, which is similar to the Magic Carpet. It's one tile longer and can make about 25% more money if you set it to the minimum of 7 swings. It has much lower stats than the Magic Carpet, but it makes up for that with more than double the throughput. These lower stats, especially the nausea rating, also means you'll have less puke to worry about, which makes it slightly better than the Magic Carpet. And now we have arrived at the only ride type that could possibly beat the launched freefall, the Roto Drop. A very tall Roto Drop is clearly much worse at making money than a very tall launched freefall, as the journey to the top just takes way too long. However, a small one can compete. In fact, if you just don't build a top at all, you get an incredibly short ride time, as all it does is spin around for a bit. This gives it a maximum throughput of over 2,600 guests per year, the highest of any thrill ride. Surprisingly though, this isn't the most profitable design. A Roto Drop with 3 pieces above the station gets about 2,300 guests per year, which is slightly less, but it makes about 25% more profit due to significantly higher stats. The launched freefall maxed out at a little over 20,000 a year, but the Roto Drop eclipses that with over 26,000 a year. And that while having much lower stats, meaning more guests will like its intensity rating and consider riding it. If you need a higher intensity rating, you can just make it taller, and a super tall one can function as a park value bomb, similar to the launched freefall. It does only attract 45 guests as opposed to the freefall 65, but I think the Roto Drop is still slightly better, putting it at the top of the tier list. We still have 3 rides to go, starting with the swinging Inverter ship. It's almost identical to the Magic Carpet in throughput, stats and cost. The only significant difference is that while they are the same size, you can only build the entrance and exit buildings on one side of the swinging Inverter ship, which can be extremely annoying when trying to fit it in a tight space. It's still in the same tier, it's not that bad, but it does put it at the very bottom of the meh tier. From one inverting ride to another, the top spin has 3 different modes: beginner, intense and berserk. Naturally, the intenser the mode, the higher the stats and the longer the ride duration. The middle one, intense, has the most optimal combination of the two, allowing for just over 5,000 euros of profit per year. The top spin is also the other flat ride that can reach a high enough intensity rating for parks where guests prefer extreme rides, although just barely, so it only works for very happy guests. The more standard 3x3 shape with space for the entrance and exit buildings on all sides make it more convenient to use than the other rides in the meh tier, but it's not enough to push it up to good, as it's just a decent flat ride and nothing more. And lastly, there is the twist, the most boring of all the thrill rides. There is just nothing exciting about the twist, and that shows in its stats. The only ride with a lower maximum ticket price and a lower profit is the 3D cinema, so it's not the worst, but it's still very bad. And even though it doesn't count for this list, the 3D cinema does at least look cool as opposed to the utter genericness of the twist. I have just one word to say to it. Ew. So that's the tier list. Unsurprisingly, the 3 non-flat thrill rides are also the 3 best thrill rides. What was a surprise for me is the 3D cinema. I knew it wasn't great, but I didn't realize that it was this terrible. The fact that the beheaded Roto Drop isn't the most profitable design was also unexpected. These are all the numbers that I use to make judgments about the rides. Feel free to use it as a reference when you're building your own thrill rides. To see my coaster types tier list and learn about them, click right here. Thank you all for watching and I will see you in the next video.